The former president, general manager, top dog of the New Jersey Devils, Lou Lamoriello, is the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And here's Lou. Holy mackerel, how are you?
Hello, Bob. How are you?
Well, congratulations. I mean, you could have blown me over with a feather. I never saw this coming at all. So let me start right at the beginning. Does this happen with a phone call from Shanny? Is that where this whole thing started? Did you meet him somewhere? How did it start, Lou?
What happened was when I decided to, get a transition and brought Ray Sherrill in. That was something that ownership and myself had talked about for the last year. So that came relatively quickly. And I was, I felt good going forward in that role, doing the things, and maybe, I don't want to say taking it easy, but just overseeing everything in a different way. Evidently, Brendan, at that time, called our ownership and asked for permission to speak with me if they, and they told him that, I guess, if that was something that I wanted to do, they would never hold me back. But, they didn't think that I would be interested in win. And they were right at that time. And then Brendan, certainly, at different times we spoke because he had the ability. And then Larry Tannenbaum had a conversation with me. And then we pushed it off because of the draft and certainly free agency. And then as soon as that finished, Brendan, and I spoke, and it just heated up. And as I said today in the press conference, if I need somebody to recruit anybody, I'm going to send Brendan and not even think of anybody else. And he and I go way back and have had a great relationship, throughout his career. And, I have been impressed with the things that he was doing here and the commitment certainly that Toronto had. And he really rekindled me in an excitement, and he got me enthused, and here I am.
Lou, when people think of Lou Lamoriello, it's always about this incredible presence you bring to an organization and kind of rules and a way to conduct yourself for everyone, from guys on the ice all the way through the front office. But you've done that with the benefit, I guess I would say, of having such a long runway to really shape a culture. Can you, first of all, tell us a little bit about what these little things you do that people like to talk about that matter, and is 3 years, which I guess has been reported the length of your contract, enough time to really shape an organization?
Well, we'll have to find out, because I really don't know a lot of the integral things. I have some information, but you never come in with a list and say, this is what we're going to do. You just look at the little things that possibly you can get control immediately that happen without somebody even knowing. And then you build off that. And for me, the most important thing is getting players, and I know Mike is totally with me on this, Brendan is, and everyone else here, getting players who love the game and want to have success in the game as a team, not only success as an individual. And creating something that logo is more important than that name in the back of the shirt. Now, that sounds like a mouthful, but there are little things that you find out in people when that happens. And if you look over a lot of the successful teams, and, we've been very fortunate in some of the players who have their names on the cups. I mean, you don't see them in any scoring, but without them, you would not have won. And everybody recognizes that, and people have to realize that no matter what their role is in a team, they're just as important as the so-called most talented player. And the most talented player has to recognize he can't have any success with the other person. So that's what we have to try and create, which in talking to Brendan, and I know what Mike believes in without question. I mean, he has the history to show that, whether it be with Detroit in the Olympics or junior or whatever he's touched his hands on. So that's the excitement part of here. The question is, you asked how long. I could not answer that until I see what the character is of the individuals we're talking about.
To follow up, is there some little thing that you do that you have trusted that's worked for you over time that might be subtle, might be almost undetectable, that you always believe you've had on your teams in Providence, you've had with your teams in New Jersey? Some, a little policy, a rule, something that really says Lou Lamoriello.
Bob, you know me longer. Does he really think I'm going to answer this?
Well, no, I don't, but I'm just listening.
Okay.
Let me ask you about Babcock. Did you talk to Mike before you agreed to take the job? Was that?
Yes, I did.
Will you tell us anything about that conversation, and how influential was he in helping you make your decision?
Very, very. Mike, very influential.
Obviously, you respect him as a coach.
Yes, I do. I respect him as a coach. I respect him as an educator, and I respect him as a person. And his work ethic, and he's committed to winning. And he doesn't do it in words. He puts the effort in himself to have success, and he also trusts the people around him.
It is unusual, though, you would acknowledge, for a general manager to come in and have a coach who has just come in himself, and you essentially don't have a role in it. Now, I would think that is mitigated to a great extent, Lou, by the fact that this is not just a guy. This is Mike Babcock. This is one of the acknowledged best coaches in the game today. I would assume you have no issue with Mike Babcock being your head coach.
I don't think, Bob, this thought process of even considering anything, if there was the slightest even inkling in my mind of that, this is not, this is about having a, sort of position to have success, not having a position.
With Lou Lamoriello, the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you are as familiar as we all are with the history of this franchise, especially the most recent history. And when I say recent history, it's half a century without a Stanley Cup, but more importantly, one playoff appearance in the last decade. And a program that has already been kind of put in place of trying to start over, if you will. Your thoughts generally on that? This is a process that's going to take some time, but do you have a clock running in your head where you say, it's going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, however long?
No, I really don't. And I've always had an expression, at say New Jersey, is that you have a 5-year plan that changes every day, and you adjust it. And I think that's the approach you take. You lay out everything, and then you keep adjusting it. And then what happens is when you get to a certain point that it either shrinks and you've got your plan and you have to maintain it. But I have no timetable. And when I say 5 year, that's what my thought process in New Jersey was when we were winning. So it's not that it's 5 years. I couldn't tell you. I don't know enough about, the players, and Mike doesn't either. You don't know enough about,
what you got,
how they're going to respond. You just don't know.
Lou, there was a moment in your press conference where somebody was asking you about being part of a committee, and I think you said something along the lines of, anyone who knows me knows. Now, there's some debate. Did you say, I'll make the decisions or will make the decisions?
I think that the people that are in place here, and I'll get to that as best I can answer it, and the way it has been set up with reference to the responsibilities in each area, for example, Kyle, who is the assistant general manager, and Mark, who is the director of scouting, and Mike, the head coach. Every one of them have an individual role and responsibility, no different than what I had in New Jersey. Here, it was a little bit more of the way it's been put in because there have been so many different people speaking at different times. So it's not unusual in the input, but there has to be one voice at the end to make that decision. And I think that's what I was alluding to, is that you take the input of everyone, and then you have to make that final decision.
So in that, it's almost like an accountability structure that's set up.
That's the word that was used, too.
Yeah. So when it goes great, you'll thank everybody. When it goes badly, everyone gets to blame you. Is that how it's going to go?
That's exactly the way it goes.
Yeah, that's how it goes in every business.
And by the way, you can't apologize for it because that's the way it should go.
This is almost inarguably the most star-laden front office I can almost ever recall. I'm trying to think of another one in sport at any time historically of this many high-profile people all in one place at one time. Have you thought about that and what that actually might mean, Lou, positively or negatively?
Yeah, I think you can dissect it and look at it any way you want. I think the one thing that we have, if you're speaking of Brendan, Mike, and myself at this point, is the common denominator is the type of people. Everyone is team orientated. Everyone is committed to the same goal, and I don't feel in any way whatsoever that the respect and trust that each has for each other will only come together as one. If I had any doubt in that, I would not have, because I was the last person here coming, so I had the opportunity to see who the first two were.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I am so comfortable with that, and not over comfortable. It's just because I know both individuals. I know the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we all have.
One of your assets, strengths.
I thought you were going to false first, by the way. I heard you.
One of the things I was going to, and when you talk to people about Lou Lamoriello and the New Jersey Devils, you think defense first. You think of a structure that is a discipline that is almost second to none. But it's a structure that seems to be keep the puck out of your own net first. I've never asked you this. Is that your philosophy? Or do you believe that's the best way to win in the National Hockey League? Or was this just something that, when you look at the cast of players that you assembled, this seemed to be the best way to play?
That is the best answer that I could give. When we went to New Jersey and we were where we were, and it was the philosophy I had in coaching in my past in college, is that, defense wins championships, offense wins games. And unfortunately, maybe with the growing that we went through in New Jersey, we had ourselves accustomed to winning one-goal games, and we certainly had the luxury of a world-class goaltender. And our system that we had was to make him, see the puck. And we felt that, we could win, and our players bought into that and never got wrapped up with anyone talking about, defense or letting it get in the way. It was an asset that we had that people, we have to play the New Jersey Devils. And when Jacques Lemaire came in, he put that to the highest level you could have in the way he, put the system together. And whether they called it the trap or they called it this or they called it that, it was just everybody doing their own job collectively, but, playing the same way on both sides of the puck, which you don't always get. So if it's a defense system and first, and that's the way they want to create it, and they speak of it, so be it. But if you look back at some of those teams that we had, we were pretty well up there in scoring too, but what got recognized was our defense.
Yeah, and you did, as you said, you did it because you had one of the great goaltenders in the history of the game. So absent that, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on the existing Leaf goaltenders, philosophically, you aren't married necessarily to the notion of players who will who are primarily focused on defense? Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Yeah. So if there's a player out there who has a high skill set as a scorer, but maybe isn't the best defensive player out there, you don't automatically discount him as a possibility.
No, I can give you an example in New Jersey, and I have tremendous respect for him. And we don't have him. We don't win the '95 Cup. Stefan Richer. It's
good one.
Who you put with him? You put Bobby Copper and John McClain.
Yeah, two guys that complement him and allow him to do what he does while protecting the other end.
And the key there, Bob, is that those players and the team accepts the assets and the liabilities. That's the only way you have to success, because you can't win with all one type of player.
Lou, your connection to Providence is well known, and two guys you've mentored and have great affection for, Ron Wilson, Brian Burke. In the last 10 years, Bob was talking about it, they've been here, and they were highly respected hockey guys when they got here, and things couldn't get done. From where you were, what has been missing here, and what can you bring to change the trajectory of where guys and respect have failed?
That's a good question. I really, don't have an answer for that, because I haven't been here long enough, and that's not going to be a question that I could even answer, for a good period of time. I'm coming in with no preconceived notions, and I'm coming here with each and every player here that's on that roster. I was part of them being here, and each and every one of the staff members, I hired. And that's the only way I feel you should approach it, and I believe in that. I did that going into New Jersey from Providence. I did that going into the athletic directorship at Providence. I did it when I had to take the Nets. That's the only way it works. Once you do that, and then people start separating, and you find out in players as to who are really committed and who love, and who want to be successful.
When you talk to Brendan at any point, whether it was the first time or the last time before you agreed to take the job, did he convey to you his philosophy of building this franchise?
Yes, he did. And, if I weren't in tune to that, and I weren't, on board with that, I wouldn't have even considered it. And, I report to Brendan. Brendan is, in the position he's in. I respect that. I have no problem with that. And I feel very comfortable, in my own skin. And I know that all the people here are comfortable in their own skin, and are not going to be afraid, to test and push each other.
Brendan's been associated most closely with the Devils and with the Red Wings, and he's brought together his two most high-profile hires are Mike Babcock, who's kind of the face of the Red Wings, and Lou Lamoriello, who's clearly the spirit of the New Jersey Devils. What's it going to be like when the three of you get together, and who's going to break the tie?
I think it's going to be fun.
There's one question, and I don't want to go too far out on a limb here, but I heard this earlier, and if it's true, it would be a great story for you to tell. You drafted Shanahan. When Shanahan was 18 years of age, did you take him on a car trip and drop him off somewhere and tell him to find his way back to New Jersey?
No.
That's not a true story? Damn. It would have been great if it was.
No. Where did this one come from?
Oh, I don't know. I heard it someplace, and I didn't. I thought, well, that's sort of out there, but I figured when I found out you were coming on today, I thought, well, I better ask Lou that question, because if it's true, it'd be just one of the great stories of all time. It didn't sound like you, but...
No. And by the way, that's the first time I've heard that one.
Apparently, the story was you dropped him off on the side of the road and said, if you can find your way back to New Jersey, you can play for us.
By the way, some things you can't even make up, but that's a good one.
No, it is a pretty good one, isn't it? Yeah. Listen, I couldn't be happier. I mean, we've talked to you on so many occasions, and you've always been most generous with your time. And to have you in our home city now is a delight, and we wish you the best of luck. And we'll look forward to having the opportunity sooner rather than later of getting you in studio here and having a nice long chat again. Congratulations, Lou, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, and it's always been my pleasure. You fellows have always treated me great, and it's always appreciated. But I'm excited to be here. I really am.
We're excited for you. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Lou Lamoriello, the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs.